Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Today is August 21st. Another week closer. We're almost there. I know I've been saying this for months now. We're NFL season right around the corner. Preseason week 2 is done. Things to talk about there. A decent amount happened. The league is shaping up. Some teams getting stronger, some teams looking much worse after I did their preview last week. And I'll talk about all of that in the NFL weekly update. But no, this week it was great. I got my fantasy league up and running again. We're in year 2 of our keeper league now. Some interesting keeper choices, that's for sure. But no, we set our draft order, but how we did it was we went and we did a mini putt tournament at the Nepean Mini Golf Gardens. They have 36 holes there, so you pay for the first 18, you get the second 18 free. Great course, and found out that Pat, the loser of my league last year, really good at mini putt for whatever reason. He also used a child's putter, maybe that's the key, but yeah, he got an 86 total on the 36, and I don't know what the par with the total is, whatever, but less than 3, averaging less than 3 shots a hole in mini putt. I think that's very, very good. He absolutely crushed it. Everyone else wasn't even close to him, so shout out Pat. Yeah, but just that much closer. When fantasy is here, when you start drafting, you start setting your draft order, that means the season is just so much closer, and it is that much closer. But yeah, this episode going to be the AFC and NFC South preview. I had Moub over today, which would have been yesterday for the people listening on Wednesday, but had him over, had some good chats about these two divisions, who we think stinks, who we think is ascending and going somewhere. So that'll be the second half, or mainly the whole episode, but we'll start off here with a little preseason week 2 preseason recap in the NFL weekly update. So starting off, recap preseason week 2. Pat Mahomes behind the back pass. I don't know how he does it. Apparently, it was just kind of a thing out of frustration that he did. Either way, it's phenomenal that he was able to even do that. The guy's incredible. Caleb Williams, speaking of Pat Mahomes, Caleb Williams also had some excellent throws. He looks great. He's sitting out week 3 now. His first real game action will be week 1 against the Titans, but Caleb Williams just looked phenomenal. Another first-round rookie, Malik Neighbors. He flashed. He looked really good despite Daniel Jones playing like Daniel Jones, throwing a pick 6, just being Daniel Jones and better. But Neighbors is an unreal talent. Michael Penix was held out for whatever reason. I talk about more of that later in the division preview. Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys kicker, 66-yard field goal. That ties the record. Obviously, it doesn't count because it's preseason, but that guy's got a leg. He might be the best kicker in the NFL now. Move over Justin Tucker. Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe, Dominic Pooney, the Niners guard, but the first 2 guys, the Cowboys rookies, they're looking very good, and that is a major need for them, is that offensive line to be good. Pooney looking like he's going to be one of the starting guards for the Niners. That's awesome. Tua, chef's kiss, looked phenomenal in his preseason debut. The Steelers QBs, Russ, Fields, both played like ass. I think Russ got sacked 4 times, not good. And then finally, Elijah Chapman, if you don't know that, big defensive tackle for the Giants. He ran down one of, I don't know which Bears running back it was, but he was sprinting. That's a hustle play, and that's how you make the 53-man roster. That is the preseason week 2 recap. Now let's slow things down, get into the NFL weekly update. Starting off with some big Falcons moves. Matt Judon traded to the Falcons for a 3, and Justin Simmons signs a 1-year, $8 million deal also with the Falcons. So let's talk about the Falcons. We're talking about Matt Judon. I talked about it in the division preview just a little bit, but this Falcons team wasn't confident about their D. Now I am. Matt Judon, Justin Simmons, those are very, very big additions this late in the offseason. Matt Judon coming off an injury. He's had double-digit sack seasons for the last couple years. He's older, coming off a big injury. We'll see how that production goes, but he is their best edge rusher since Jonathan Abram, and I think he retired more than a decade ago at this point. So they finally have their first real edge rusher in more than 10 years. That's absolutely nuts. And then Justin Simmons, him and Jesse Bates forming one of the best safety duos in the league, in my opinion. Simmons, while older, was an all-pro just a couple seasons ago and is still one of the better safeties in the league. To get him for a 1-year, $8 million deal, that's absolutely stealing for the Falcons at this point. And yeah, a defensive unit that I didn't have a lot of confidence going into this year. Those two big vet additions helps me like the Falcons more. And again, I talk more about it in the division preview. Now, let's talk about the team that traded away Matt Judon for that third-round pick, the Patriots. So when I talked about the AFC East last week and talked about the Patriots, I talked about how I still liked this Patriots defense quite a bit. Now, no more Matt Judon. No longer the case. Now, you can tell me about young ascending players, guys like Josh Uche, not Anthony Simons, that's a basketball player. Anthony Jennings, I think that's it. Keon White, like those are all nice names, but it's not Matt Judon. And I've had my issues with Matt Judon, but Matt Judon is still an effective, very good edge rusher at the end of the day. And replacing his production is hard. Now, obviously, he didn't really play last year because of that injury, but not having that guy regardless now when you were supposed to, and no more Christian Barmore, that defense took a big hit in New England this past week. Now, maybe those guys do replace him and someone steps up and someone plays good and Barmore comes back earlier than I think, but we'll see. But now the kind of like, okay, I felt a little confident in not confident in the Patriots, but better than 4.5 wins, which was their win total. And now I'm confident that this is one of the worst teams in football. I already knew that. I already knew that they were a bottom 5 team, but now it's like you're competing with the Broncos for being ass this year. And I'm okay with that. Big extension here. JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the Joker, 3-year, $39 million extension, $25 million guaranteed. That is a very good number to lock him up at, $13 million AAV a year. He is just simply one of the better linebackers in the league. He can do it all at this point, despite kind of his lack of size. He is a hard hitter, and he is someone who will put the body on the line day in, day out. Very good signing for the Browns to get him at that number. And yeah, he gets to stay in Cleveland, which I guess is a negative. So that's too bad. Stephon Gilmore, another vet free agent that was on the market for far too long. He signs a $10 million deal to go with the Vikings. There was reports about this last week. I don't think I really talked about it, but yeah, Gilly back with Brian Flores, who obviously was his defensive coordinator in New England, I think Flores was the DC. The rules were all muddled there. It was weird, but back with Flores. Gilly's still a very good corner in this league, despite his age. And this Vikings corner room was in desperate need of someone. Now they're relying on Gilly to be that number one guy, and I still think he can be a number one in this league. Now, just hopefully one of these other younger guys steps up and it looks good. But the concern I had about the Vikings secondary is still warranted. But now at least Gilly is there, and I'm like, That's okay. They're going to be all right. Matt Milano unfortunately tore his bicep, and he will be out for, I think, the year. I don't think, maybe there's a chance he comes back for playoffs. I don't know, but he missed basically the entire year last year. One of the better linebackers in the league when he is healthy, and it is unfortunate. And now the Bills are relying on sophomore player Dorian Williams, who I think they took in the third last year, who he looked okay when he played last year. I guess they're hoping for that Terrell Bernard type jump where Bernard was the one who stepped in for Milano, and he looked great. And now hopefully Williams, second year, he can step in and he plays pretty well. But that is a huge loss to this Bills team, and just another team where I was like, I like the Bills, I like what they're doing. That Milano injury, that is big. That defense also looked fine last year without Milano. So I guess we will see. Evan McPherson, 3-year, $16.5 million deal. I think that makes him the highest paid kicker in the league. I could be wrong about that. I think I'm wrong about that. Either way, the Bengals keep McFrosty. He is a very good kicker. Had a little bit of issues of late, but no, he's a very good kicker, one of the better ones in the league, and you always want to lock up your kicker if he's a good one. Of course, duh. And yeah, I alluded to it a little bit earlier with the Vikings and Flores, but Tua went on the Dan Le Batard show and basically called Flores a terrible person. If you didn't listen to the clip, Tua was talking about his rookie year and how he would show up to work basically, and Flores would tell him, I don't want you, you don't belong, you suck, you're not good enough. All of these nasty things, and a lot of people warn it to, oh, that's just tough coaching. No, it's not. Tua went to Bama. Tua was taught by Nick Saban, one of the most hard-ass coaches in college football. Tua's dad also did some pretty shitty things to Tua as a kid, and it's like he's used to being around tough situations, but it's tough love. And that's the big difference, where Flores wasn't giving him tough love. Flores was just being a dick. Was just being, and this isn't just a Tua thing. There are multiple players on the team that feel that way. Ryan Fitzpatrick even talked about it on, they do Thursday Night Football, right? On one of the Thursday Night Football broadcasts, it got brought up that Flores butted heads with a lot of guys in the locker room for the way he got treated. And shout out to Tua for bouncing back from that, because a lot of guys won't. And a lot of players' issues in this league is just a confidence thing. And it's weird to say, but when your confidence gets knocked, and when you're showing up to work and you're getting told every day by your boss that you suck, you're not good enough, I don't want you here, it wears down on you, and it wears down on you eventually. It's great that he's been able to get back into a place where it's just like the complete 180 he's had since his rookie year to now, and not even just on-field play, but just who he is as a person. It's very, very nice to see. Anything else I can really talk about? Yeah, I think Flores didn't want him from the jump. I think that's been known. I think Flores wanted Jordan Love or Herbert or someone like that. I don't know. Who's this, maybe it would have worked and it would have been better under, but that rookie situation was so bad for Tua. I talk about it with Moub a bit because I can relate, because Panthers and Bryce Young last year, absolutely garbage. But yeah, shout out for Tua for overcoming that situation. He never should have played year one anyways. Coming off a devastating hip injury, the offense sucks, and then he puts him out there early. I think everyone thought that he was just going to write off his rookie year. He'll come in year two, and then that'll be his first true year. But no, Flores put him in there early to spite him. That's the only thing I could really think of. Tavon Austin retiring. The man with the most electric college football reel is calling it quits after, I want to say that's a decade career. A decade-long career in the NFL. Drafted by the Cowboys, and it just never really worked out. And I think if someone like Tavon Austin was drafted nowadays, the way that offenses have shifted and how they're schemed, someone like Tavon Austin, his skill set will be utilized. Where I think the Cowboys drafted him, and they just kind of did the Cowboys drafted him? Did the Rams draft him? Now I have to look up, and I should have actually known this, but this is, I mean, if you're new here, this is just kind of how a typical episode goes. But yeah, Tavon Austin, West Virginia, college football highlight reel, one of the best. Yeah, went to the Rams. The Rams stunk. The Rams were not a well-run team. Sam Bradford still would have been the quarterback at this point. Like, Tavon Austin didn't have a chance to make it on the St. Louis Rams. But yeah, wish him all the best. Maybe if he wants to come up to the CFL, have some fun. I think that he could excel here. But just shout out to Tavon Austin. Colt McCoy also retiring. Long-time NFL backup. That's basically what you can sum it up to. Was a great college QB at Texas. Got drafted in day 2 by the Browns because the Browns just needed anyone at quarterback. And yeah, just really, he was just a good backup quarterback basically his entire career. Never great, could never go in for long periods of times and really win you games. But, if something were to happen in your quarterback during the game, you needed to take like a half off and be back next week, Colt McCoy could come in, be serviceable. Most of his career being RG3 and Kirk Cousins backup. Then he went to Arizona, Carson Palmer, Kyler Murray's backup. But yeah, very good career. Also, decade-plus long career in the NFL, and that is just absolutely awesome. Gardner Minshew named the Raiders starting quarterback. Yay. It's just such a nothing battle between him and Aiden O'Connell. I feel bad because I like things on that team, and I talked about them already in my division preview a couple weeks ago, but I don't know. That's really, it's a nothing year. The Raiders are punting on this year. It's tough going into week 1 with Gardner Minshew as your confirmed starter. I like Gardner. I think he's fun. I think he is a Ryan Fitzpatrick type, but that's tough. That's tough. The Cowboys make a couple moves. They bring in a vet edge guy, Carl Lawson, a longtime Bengal, went over to the Jets a little bit. He's had back-to-back, I think a knee and then an Achilles, back-to-back years. So maybe he comes back into some form. This is a depth, good rotational guy. Maybe for the Cowboys who are looking for someone else on those edge spots other than Parsons and Lawrence. They drafted Marshawn Nealand this year, but maybe Lawson can come in and give them some decent snaps. They also traded for Jordan Phillips, the big defensive tackle, to just plug up holes in the middle. Again, depth is good for the Cowboys because I said it earlier, or I said it a couple weeks ago, but their big offseason addition was Zeke. So the fact that they got 2 guys who can contribute, hopefully, at least I know that Jordan Phillips will be able to. Carl Lawson, I don't know, but Zeke, Carl Lawson, Jordan Phillips. Those are the big additions for the Cowboys this year. 2 more things here. Nicolas Cage is set to play John Madden in a biopic. Biopic. Exciting, I guess. People maybe look at that casting and be like, really? Nick Cage? I hope that Nick Cage will put on a decent amount of weight for the role. I think his face, but it's just Nick Cage at the end of the day. Weird guy, weird actor, but he's a good actor. And I think that he will do, honestly, a pretty good job of playing John Madden. I'm excited to see kind of the direction of where that movie goes. Someone made the tweet that Nick Cage should be playing Al Davis in the movie instead of John Madden, and it's that's actually kind of a perfect casting. But yeah, Nick Cage is playing John Madden. And finally, we have some Olympic news, because obviously a lot of the NFL guys, 2028, they're talking about playing for the U.S. flag football team in 2028. But not so fast, says Flag football QB Daryl Hoosh Doucette. Yeah, he says, he's like, no, like, we're the ones who grew the sport. We should be given the chance and not just assume that these NFL guys can just come in and play the flag game as well as us. A lot of people laughed at him. A lot of people said, oh, he'll be working at Target or blah, blah, blah. And honestly, it is a little disrespectful, in my opinion. The flag game is so much different. Like, you can't be, and people say, like, oh, because Joe Burrow's expressed interest, and I think Brock Purdy like put his like name, and it's like they're obviously like mobile and they're good athletes in terms of like athletic standards and stuff, but it's like you have to be mobile in flag. Those guys are constantly throwing off platform and doing things, and then on defense, just the other side of the ball. Grabbing a flag, much harder than tackling a guy. Weird to say, I know, and not tackling a guy like, oh, like I can go in and tackle an NFL player, but like when you're an NFL player and you know how to tackle, tackling's easier than grabbing a little small target off someone's hip who's constantly twisting and moving. Now, obviously, guys like Tyreek Hill and I think the skill positions and the DBs, they will be able to do great, but I don't know. Yeah, I do think it is disrespectful because I think that there are a lot of good flag football players, and Daryl Hoosh Doucette will be far too old by the time the Olympics rolls around to be the starting team's quarterback. I think he's in his mid-30s right now. But I don't know. I'm down for the idea of the NFL started doing like flag football for the Pro Bowl. I'm down to see the whatever squad, the all-stars of flag football, wherever they play, go against the Pro Bowl squad or the best NFL team and see who can win, see who does well. But yeah, there was a little bit of controversy there, so I thought I would bring that up. Yeah, that'll do it for the NFL Weekly Update. I guess let's get right into the AFC and NFC South Division preview with Moub. Okay, AFC, NFC South Division preview here. I got Moub joining me, nice enough to come over. And I think I got to start it off. What do we think of Chibs keeping Keaton Mitchell as one of his keepers for fantasy this year?
I honestly, I wasn't paying too much attention to it, so then I just kind of glossed over all the names, and I was like, Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase, Keaton Mitchell, someone else, and then I was like, wait, did I just say Keaton Mitchell? And then, I think he's starting the season on the PUP, so
yep,
he's gonna be out a while. But I mean, I guess you can keep him on an IR spot. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe he'll beat out Derrick Henry. It's a long shot. Maybe he'll beat him out.
I was going to say, I checked the ADP last night. It was at 306, so good value with the 17th there. But, I couldn't believe it was, going through his keepers and being like, there's no way this man kept Keaton Mitchell. But he, in fact, did. So have to have you on. We're going to talk about the Panthers and that division very shortly. But let's start in the AFC here, and starting off with the Tennessee Titans, who finished last in that division last year at 6-11. I probably should have said this off the top. We're going to do a little bit of a 2023 recap, talk the additions, the losses, again, just in general for the team, then exciting player, over-under win total, and then at the end of each division, we'll pick the winner. Sure. So 2023 Titans season. It stunk. Their offensive line was bad. They had no weapons other than Derrick Henry. The only reason they got 6 wins was because Mike Vrabel was the head coach, and now Mike Vrabel is gone. Yeah.
Well, they had kind of a forgettable year. I mean, they usually in a down year like that, you kind of want to develop your young players, give them a run and give them a shine, but I mean, they didn't get much of that. They had their number one wide receiver was DeAndre Hopkins, who seems to be 35 for the last 5 years, and then you look and he's like 32 years old. Derrick Henry, he's gone now. Yeah. Like you said, Vrabel's gone.
Yeah.
They kind of got rid of the older guys, trying to go a little younger, and they picked up Calvin Ridley, but it technically counts as being young because he's only played for maybe 5 years.
I was going to say, he's not that much older than us right now.
Yeah,
so.
no. Oh, it's true.
So notable additions for the Titans this offseason. Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Tyler Boyd, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Murray, Chidobe Awuzie, Jamal Adams, and Quandre Diggs. Notable losses: Mike Vrabel, Derrick Henry, Azeez Elshire, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Aaron Brewer, Danico Autry, and Ryan Tannehill, who is still a free agent. And I guess I'll lead it off with this. If Will Levis is good, and he proves that he's a top 20 quarterback in this league, is there enough around him with all of the additions that they made for this Titans team to really be sneaky good and maybe push for a playoff spot at the end of the day?
No. And
Okay, fair.
The reason I say that is that like they got like nice veterans that you would want to have on like, you know, kind of depth pieces. Like Jamal Adams at this point of his career, I don't know how much juice he has left. I know he's missed a ton of time. I really like the L'Jarius Sneed pickup. Only cost him a third.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard.
Yes.
I'll forever hate him because of what he did to my fantasy team last year. But they kind of like it's like they're going for it. They're going all in. But the caliber players that they got are not like game changers. Like Calvin Ridley's probably the biggest name. Yeah. But even then, you see a team like the Jaguars who badly need a number one or even a number two, and they were, you know, willing to get rid of him and lose him. So, I don't know. I think Will Levis would have to be more in the top 15, pushing top 10 type of category. I know he has the type of talent and the arm strength, athleticism to be able to do that.
Yeah,
he's just got to be able to show, and I don't know. We'll see.
And that is the whole thing. I think that we can both agree that this is a much better Titans team than it was last year. But all the guys that they added are just names more than anything at this point.
Oh, yeah.
We know all these guys. They've been around. They've had really high peaks at some points. But they're all old now. And it's old. Put that in quotation marks. But I think that there'll be a sneaky tough game, and it's tough though because Vrabel was the reason where every time you go against the Titans, you can't count them out just because Vrabel gets the guys fired up, and now new coach Brian Callahan, the old Bengals offensive coordinator, I think will do a good job. I don't know if he'll be as good as Vrabes, but the Titans are still, they'll be decent. Yeah. They won't be a bad team by any stretch this year.
No, they won't be a bad team. They'll be in a lot of games. I just think that they're in a tough division, which is weird to say because over the last few years it's like 8 or 9 wins, and then you have the Jaguars playing the Colts every year, week 17 for the division. It seems like
it really went from all of these teams stink and someone's going to come out on top because someone has to 2 of the teams in this division are contending now. The Jags are still good, and the Titans, it's just like everyone's above average now, which in a quick couple of years, I mean, Davis Mills was starting 2 years ago. How the tides have changed. I think
end of 2022, we had Josh Dobbs and Davis Mills starting.
Bad.
Was not good. Now, I mean, things have seemed to turn around a bit, but again, it's weird going for it at a time where the entire division's really strong, so it's going to be tough to try to win or even try to make the playoffs out of that division for sure.
100%. I guess last talking point, and I brought up like if Will Levis is good, because we obviously don't know where he'll be. The talent, you can see the talent, but it's tough. A lot of guys have that arm talent stuff to put everything together. But I do like what the Titans did this year. They're going to find out if Will Levis is the guy, because despite the aging and old talent, it's a talented team regardless. They're not leaving Will Levis out to dry. They will know by the end of this season if Will Levis will be their QB of the future or not, and I think that's a smart move. I think their GM's name is like Rand Carthon or something like that. Yeah. So it's a smart move by him to know, okay, I have the QB or I don't have the QB. And he's setting himself up well. The O-line, which was such an issue last year. The good thing about hiring Brian Callahan is getting his dad, who's Bill Callahan, one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. Yeah. They added talent on that offensive line. They drafted J.C. Latham out of Alabama, who's just a monster. They bring in Lloyd Cushenberry, and then still got Peter Skronsky from last year. So the offense and what's around Levis, we have to like. And it's a good thing that the GM did that, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, they invested a lot in their quarterback, and even if Will Levis is not the guy, they didn't invest too much in him as the draft pick. They can always, go after another QB either in the draft or free agency next year. Big name like Dak Prescott potentially available. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. They're definitely building around the quarterback in a good way for sure.
Yeah, and that's, again, from two guys who have seen our rookie QBs go into terrible spots in year one and year two.
Yeah.
It's, well, hopefully not year two for you. It's good to see a team do that. Talk about who are we excited to watch on this Titans team. I'll let you go first.
Well, for me, I would have to say Calvin Ridley, because it's like Calvin Ridley, when he was on the Falcons, I remember this very closely. Again, like as a Panthers fan, a lot of people around the league were of the mindset that Calvin Ridley was a much better player than DJ Moore.
Yeah.
And you look at where DJ Moore is as a player, and the consensus on Calvin Ridley is much lower than it was in years past. Mm-hmm. Now, is it because he took so much time off from football? Because of suspension, took time he took away. Maybe the more reps and the more active he gets, he'll produce a lot more like those 2019, 2020 seasons. But we'll see. I mean, they definitely need him if they want to have the type of season that they're hoping to have.
Yeah, that's the thing. Calvin Ridley last year had a good season. Is it Calvin Ridley standards of like what you were saying, of like what we saw with the Falcons? No. But that Jags offense was just so dysfunctional in general, and there was missed opportunities everywhere. So I do think Calvin Ridley should have a bit of a bounce-back season, back to his standards, and hopefully he does become that wide receiver one. The guy I'm excited for is second-year running back Tyjae Spears. He was the only other dynamic player that they had last year. Obviously, Derrick Henry was still doing his thing, but they brought in Spears to be kind of that change of pace guy, and when he got the ball, he made the most of his opportunities, and very excited to see what he does this year, splitting the backfield with Tony Pollard. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this because you're in my fantasy league, but I like Tyjae Spears as a running back target. I think Tony Pollard is good. I think Spears has a much higher ceiling than him at this point, so I'm excited to see what Spears can do as maybe the RB1 in that backfield.
Yeah, fair. I mean, that was a name that I was thinking about as well. I think the possible dynamic between him and Tony Pollard is going to be interesting. Mm-hmm. But I do expect him to probably take over a large portion of that role, especially later in the season. Again, not the biggest fan of Tony Pollard. He had a great offense last year, but still had zero production. But, so see.
Okay, and finish it off here. Over under set at 6.5 wins right now on the season. Listen, they got 6 wins last year, and I think that this roster has improved drastically. Now, the loss of Vrabel, I think, propped them up to that 6-win mark. I think they were realistically more of a 4 or 5 win team, but I'm gonna go over because I do think that this is a good team, offense and defense. We didn't even talk about guys like Jeffrey Simmons on that defensive line and Harold Landry. Yeah. And now that secondary seemingly bolstered with L'Jarius Sneed as their number one corner. Like, it could be, again, 6.5 wins. Not a lot. 7 wins, 8 wins, sure, why not? So I'm going over 6.5 for the Titans.
Yeah, and I would agree because like all the names we mentioned, all the vets and everything, the only issue, again, like I said, with a tough division, which would probably be the only reason why I wouldn't go with the over, but I still think they'll finish 7-10, respectable. They'll be in every game. They'll be competitive within the division.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, probably nothing more than that.
Yeah. Okay, we will go on to, I think, Jacksonville, who finished... I got to go back to my notes here. 9-8 last year. It started off really well. It's the Jags are going to run away with this division, and then all of a sudden, Lawrence gets hurt, he gets banged up, and then it's just off a steep cliff. The end of their season, absolutely terrible. I don't know. It was disappointing from beginning to end from the Jags after what they did to the Chargers in that wild card game 2 years ago now.
Yes, so you want to build off of the momentum from beating the Chargers, winning a playoff game. You have a quarterback going into year 3, one of the most hype prospects that we've ever seen in our lifetime, especially. Yeah. They started off the season very strong, either 7-2, 7-3, something along those lines. I want to say that the only reason that people have not been talking about the Jaguars' collapse last season as much as we probably should be is because of the collapse of the Eagles being, just as worse, if not worse.
Yeah.
But, going from starting the season as hot as they were in a division that many didn't expect to be that competitive, and then ended up losing to a team that was really, if you go back to our, the review or the recap from the Texans in 2022, we were absolutely killing them. There was zero reason for them to come in the very next year and win the division.
No.
And they did. And why they did that was because the Jaguars kind of just dropped the ball. And, so, disappointing.
Yeah, disappointing. No other way around it. Notable additions for the Jags this offseason. Mitch Morse, Gabe Davis, Eric Armstead, Ronald Darby, Mac Jones, and Devin Duvernay. Notable losses: Calvin Ridley, Darius Williams, Rayshawn Jenkins, and Foley Fadukasi. The Jags this season, it really just hinges, can that offense finally take that leap? Can Trevor Lawrence finally be that guy who we all talked about as being the next generational prospect in this league? And I don't know if they can. I think that the offensive line, while improved a little bit, I don't think it's great. They're relying a lot on Brian Thomas Jr. to really be that number one stud in year 1. And who's to say he can't? His tape from LSU is impressive. I mean, he's 6'4", runs a 4.3. Not a lot of guys can do that. The pieces are there. It's kind of running it back from last year, minus Calvin Ridley, and hoping that the rookie can match, if not outmatch, his production, which is tough sell.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's weird to say this about a quarterback going into his 4th year, but it's almost as if they kind of missed the boat already, because you got other teams within the division that have young QBs as well, but they just seem like they're headed in a much better direction, better management.
Yeah.
I can't really speak on the coaching just yet because they all have young coaches. But, last year was definitely the year to make up and kind of to make yourself that top team in the division. They didn't. They had the chance. Now the other teams are getting better. They kind of just stood still, didn't really do anything.
Exactly.
They're really just banking on the development of Trevor Lawrence. And if he's a top guy that he's supposed to be, of course they'll be fine. But that's a lot to ask for, especially, with the talent in this league.
No, and we haven't seen that jump and that leap from Trevor Lawrence to be like he is one of these top guys. Some people have him in the top 10 right now, and his play hasn't proven that. He's flashed and he's looked great from time to time, but there has been far too many games where he's out there and he looks like a league average quarterback.
Yeah.
And part of my issue with this offense too is I don't think, so their offensive coordinator Press Taylor, I don't think he's done a very good job. I think it's now his 3rd year. I think he's been there since Doug Peterson got hired. And Doug Peterson, I also just think, is a very okay coach.
Yeah.
He won that Super Bowl with the Eagles, and that was fantastic. But, if you don't hire the right guys around you, he's not one of these offensive or defensive gurus who's going to, have the stuff, himself. He needs to hire the guys. Press Taylor hasn't run a good offense yet. They're bringing him back to just kind of do the same thing, and that's part of the reason why I don't think this offense will take a jump. I think it can take a jump, but I think that the scheme in general will just be held back because I don't think the coaching is there right now. So
I'm honestly surprised that they didn't make big coaching changes, especially when you have disappointing of a season as they just had. But, it is what it is. They're going to try to run it back, and I have a hard time believing that if things don't go well, that people aren't going to get fired at the end of the year.
Exactly. This is a make-or-break year for that coaching staff and front office. Talk about the defense just a little bit, because I actually really like this Jags defense. I think it has the potential to take a huge jump and be a top 10 unit. They added Falcons defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen, who I think it was his first year as the Falcons DC last year. And that Falcons defense was good last year. I think up until Grady Jarrett got hurt, and then they kind of fell apart. But that was a strong unit, and I think that he's working with a much better group of guys for this Jags team. Josh Hines-Allen, one of the best edge rushers in the league. Trayvon Walker hasn't come into his own really as that first overall pick, but still a very good second option. They bring in Eric Armstead. Foye Oluokun and Devin Lloyd are an excellent linebacker tandem. Tyson Campbell at corner. Then they bring in Darnell Savage to be one of their safeties. Andre Sisco, Ronald Darby, who's Ronald Darby's been around the block for so long now, but he's still a good corner, which is wild to say at his age. When does it say he was drafted here? Never mind. But it's this, and I liked the defense last year, but I don't think there was no direction for the defense. And now I do think Ryan Nielsen is a great DC, and I think there's a chance that this defense could be the one that actually carries the Jags into any kind of playoffs or maybe division win.
Yeah, for sure. They need to get production from their edge rushers, especially, Josh, was it Hines?
Yeah, Josh Hines-Allen. There's no more two Josh Allens in the league now. So,
and then, of course, Trayvon Walker, we got to get that first overall type of production from him. And, you can't rely on the offense all the time. You got to get some help from your defense and, give them short fields, give them better, more opportunity to have the ball and run the ball. So they got to, for sure, they have an opportunity to do that, but we got to see that.
Yeah. No, exactly. We'll move over to who we are excited to watch on the Jags this year. And mine is safety Andre Sisco. Ball hawking safety out of college. I actually went to go see him. He played at Syracuse. Went to go see him when Trevor Lawrence was in town. Now his teammate. I was drunk off my ass at that game, just screaming Cisco from the fucking nosebleeds. But he's turned into quite a good safety. I think he was a mid-round pick, and now he is the guy in that backfield. And I think that with Nielsen as DC, he will be allowed to kind of return to his... He's already been a ball hawk in the league, and now I think he could kind of hit that next level, be one of the better safeties. I'm expecting a big, interception season for him, so I'm excited to see Cisco.
Yeah, all right. I mean, like you said, he's been a ball hawk in the past. If he can get some balls in his hand this year, that'll be definitely good for the Jaguars this season.
Yeah.
For my player that I'm most interested in seeing, might sound a little boring, but it's going to have to be Brian Thomas for sure, because they need desperately to pair a young wide receiver with their young quarterback for the foreseeable future. Brian Thomas Jr. has everything, the athleticism, he has the size, he has the hands. He would be one of those guys that could break out either this year or next year, and nobody would be surprised if he was a 1,500 yard receiver. Definitely has the talent to do that. He showed flashed a lot at LSU. One thing I have to say about those LSU wide receivers, especially the ones who aren't the number one wide receivers that have the junior in their last name, I'm not calling anyone out, nobody by the name of Terrace or anything, but you got to worry about those guys for sure.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, or it could be like an Odell Beckham Jr., but in that case, don't worry about it. But
it's a coin flip now. Yeah. And finally, over-under is set at 8.5 wins for the year. I'm going over again. And I'm not a fan of the coaching, but the roster improved from last year. I don't think that they'll have that fall off. Maybe Trevor Lawrence does take that leap. I think there's a lot more positives going into this season for the Jags than there is negatives. So yeah, over 8.5 wins. I think they can get to 9 again, but 10, 11, 12 might be asking a little bit much, but 9 and 8, I can see it again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm also I'm gonna go over. I think that they ran into a lot of bad luck last year, especially on offense. But again, how much of it was bad luck? How much of it was bad preparation and just not making plays? But I do think that they'll be a slightly better team than they were last year. Maybe somewhere 10-7. I don't really see them being more than an 11-win team. Like, to me, that's their absolute ceiling.
Yeah.
I think they're going to live somewhere from 9 to 10 games realistically. And, I think they should improve offensively at least, because I'd have a hard time believing that they could be any worse than they were last year.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, this is going to be weird. I think I'm going to literally pick over for every team in this division just because it's a good division. Next team up, the Colts, 9-8 finish last year, almost won the division despite losing Anthony Richardson in the third game of the year?
Basically every game he's played anyways. Like, he was leaving. He left, I think,
that's true.
First game, fourth game, and he missed the second game.
Okay. Yeah, so despite not having Anthony Richardson for basically the entire season, they almost made the playoffs with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Jonathan Taylor also missed majority of the season. This is a very good Colts team. I think it's as simple as that. They were building last year, because with the Texans, I think you could at least look and be like, okay, Stroud, and like if some of the young receivers, like the offensive line looked good, but I didn't expect the Colts to be even near contending for the division, like let alone, no Anthony Richardson. No way Gardner Minshew. I was expecting them to have like a top 10 pick easy. Oh. And that coaching staff and that roster is very good.
It's really good. And I've been constantly banging this idea that the easiest way to build a contending team is to build out the defense, surround them with a great running game, ground and pound. Make the other team, the opposing offense, take the ball out of their hand.
Yeah.
The best way to beat Mahomes is make sure he doesn't touch the ball. You know what I mean? So I think they're building a really good team with their, especially with if you have a quarterback that can run, that can do all these things. We saw it last year without Richardson. So yeah. I think the sky's the limit. And Jonathan Taylor again healthy now, so we'll see. It should be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So the notable additions and losses, not really anyone. They brought in Raekwon Davis, big nose tackle, and then also they lost Gardner Minshew and Zach Moss. So really, nothing really happened to them this offseason. But yeah, we both quickly touched on it already. But the potential is sky high for this team this year. This is an offense where Anthony Richardson is, I think I can confidently say, the best athlete to ever play the quarterback position. Yeah, I don't think that's that much of a stretch.
No, not at all. He's up there with in terms of twitchiness. You got the Michael Vicks and you got the Lamar Jacksons. Mm-hmm. In terms of size, you got Cam Newton and but he brings both elements.
Yeah.
Rocket for an arm.
Yeah.
So he's probably could be an edge rusher if he really wanted
That's
to.
like quite literally. So yeah, I'll just say limitless potential for him. Jonathan Taylor when he's healthy, is one of the better running backs in the league. This offensive line is a sneaky, very good unit, and the guys that Richardson will be throwing to. Pittman kind of emerged as a wide receiver 1 last year. He had a very good year. Josh Downs, very good rookie season. He sprained his ankle right now, so he's going to miss some time. But then they draft A.D. Mitchell in the second round, who a lot of people viewed him as a top 5 receiver in this class, who... I'm trying to remember what receiver he was, but I think he was like 8 or something like that. That sounds right, but they got guys.
Yeah.
They got guys on this offense, and Shane Steichen has already shown I can move the ball. I can score with my backup running back and backup QB. I don't know. There's a chance that this Colts team, if again, a lot has to go right and all the young guys have to actually hit their ceilings, but there's a chance team that this Colts could have a top 3 offense in the NFL. And I don't think that's a huge stretch to really say.
No, for sure. To me, I've always likened them this entire offseason to the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. They have,
That's a good one.
Again, same offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
You have these really talented wide receivers. Obviously, A.D. Mitchell, still early to tell. But, when you got a guy that's 6'3", that can run by you, that could jump over you and make, tough catches. You have a quarterback that will... And this is not a hot take at all. He will score minimum 15 touchdowns on the ground this year.
Yeah.
Like at the very least, right? So, and then you got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the best rushers in the league. Like you said, although he does lose some aura points for the helmet now, but so maybe I think that's the only thing holding me back from really picking them as a breakout team this year.
Jonathan Taylor Guardian cap.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, but yeah, I'm really high on them. I think they're going to be fantastic on offense.
Yeah.
I think if their defense is good as it has the potential to be, they'll be as good as any team in the entire conference. Really, like this is when you have a quarterback where his ceiling, the sky's the limit. Same goes for the rest of the team.
No, exactly, and we'll talk quickly about the defense here too, but Chris Ballard has made a very good unit without any really notable stars. Like the notable guy on that defense is DeForest Buckner, who they got as a free agent a few years ago, but just in the last couple years, they drafted Kwity Paye in round 1. Grover Stewart has really kind of come out of nowhere, and he's probably a top 20 DT in the league. I don't think that's... Zaire Franklin's been one of the better linebackers in the league. Julian Blackman and Nick Cross at safety. Kenny Moore is one of the better nickels. And then they add in Leatu Latu. This draft from a team that didn't really have like a number 1 pass rusher. And I think they still finished top 3 or top 5 in team sacks for the year. And now they have their number 1 guy, or supposed number 1 guy. So we talk about the offense already looked good. The defense already looked good from last year. And they added so much more to really take these units over the top. Potentially. I'll say potentially, but as much as we like the offense, the defense is also great.
Of course, no, the defense just as great. Not only are you going to get the... Late to Latu, one of the better names in the NFL, by the way.
Yeah.
Not only are you going to get these young players that you through the draft, but you're also developing the young players that you already have on that defense. Offense is great, defense is great. As long as the coaching staff does what they can with these players, it's going to be a really interesting year.
Yeah. Talk about players we're excited for. I don't think it's any shock that Anthony Richardson is the person I'm excited to watch. Like, again, the potential and the flashes we saw in his rookie season last year were unbelievable. And if he has a fully healthy year and with the players around him, like... I don't know, could be like a 2015 Cam season. That was an MVP season. He was a few years into his career, but like that's the potential of what AR could be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what they were probably envisioning when they drafted him. But for myself, I think I would have to go with A.D. Mitchell. I was really interested in him before the draft. Of course, we were looking for a wide receiver as well. But yeah, A.D. Mitchell, he had every... I kind of felt bad that he was kind of pushed down because of his diabetes.
I forgot about that.
Which is kind of, insane, but he's...
low blood sugar tantrums on the sideline knocked his draft stock.
Yeah, that was kind of weird, but he's a really good, really talented player. I think that he has the potential to be a really good number 1 in this league.
Yeah.
kind of similar to how we talk about Brian Thomas, like big guy, athletic, fast.
Yeah.
Can kind of do everything. He won't be able to outrun a Anthony Richardson deep ball though. So
no, that is a fact, and he won't have Quinn Ewers underthrowing him anymore either. And then finally, over under on the season, also set at 8.5, and I think that we both agree. Way over. Should be a playoff team. Simple as that, really.
Yeah, I think I'd probably have him 12-5. I think is like 11-6, 12-5 is what I'm leaning for.
Honestly. And final team up here, we have the Houston Texans, who won the division at 10-7 last year. 2023 recap: C.J. Stroud, incredible. Will Anderson, incredible. DeMeco Ryans, incredible rookie season as a head coach. Like, all of the young players fucking broke out, and now all of a sudden the Texans have their Super Bowl window open, and they're going for it now.
Yeah. No, everything, it's really insane. Everything that could have gone right with the team last year went right.
Yeah.
Every single
thing.
When you have a draft class of young players, you're thinking maybe one or two guys hit, and then all of a sudden, even the guys that they drafted in years before, like Nico Collins, who was a solid receiver, turned into legitimately one of the best wide receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
Tank Dell, incredible season.
Yeah.
The coaches all do a fantastic job in their first years on the job, which is just it's insane.
Yep.
Everything that could have gone right last year went right, and you saw it with them winning a playoff game.
There we go. Notable additions: they had a very busy offseason. Brought over Danielle Hunter, traded for Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, Foley Fadukasi, Azeez Al-Shire, Danico Autry, and then brought in some former first-round picks with Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson to try to strengthen up that corner room. Notable losses: Jonathan Grenard, Sheldon Rankins, Blake Cashman, Malik Collins, George Fant, Devin Singletary, and Denzel Perriman. So we just finished talking with the Colts, and the Colts was, this can be a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, but those players just have to live up to the potential. This Texans offense and defense on paper right now, I think are just both top 5 units. Maybe the defense, it's not right there, but that offense gearing up to be one of the better ones in the NFL, and it's not potential with them. They are here. This is a very good team, and they want to go for the Super Bowl this year and for basically all of Stroud's rookie contract. But the Texans are here. They are scary.
Yeah. No, the Texans, I think they made some really good, supporting and secondary moves in free agency to try to get veterans. And they kind of tried to get guys, like you said, Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson, guys who were first-round picks and that maybe in the right scheme, in the right situation, they can probably give them some production. I love the Danielle Hunter move. Now, Joe Mixon, never been the highest on Joe Mixon, but they went out and did their thing.
He's solid at the end of the day.
He is solid.
He
is solid. And then obviously Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL for the last 5 or 6 years now. So they added that. That should be a one of the better, like you said, one of the better rosters, arguably top 5 roster in the league next year.
Yeah. And really, I don't, unless C.J. Stroud has, a sophomore slump and for some reason takes, multiple steps back from where he was last year, I don't see, again, we said that they not only, they had their great team and their great core from last year, and they just added upon it. Adding Diggs is now wide receiver 2. You should say the offensive line is still strong. That secondary has been better. Their front 7, they just add Danielle Hunter, who he's been one of my favorite players, most underrated guys coming over from the Vikings. But when he's healthy, he puts up double-digit sack seasons, and now he's opposite Will Anderson. He'll be able to wreak havoc. No one was really running with him there. For the Vikings, it was just him. So interested to see what he looks like now that he's on a proper defensive line. I don't know. Like, I don't have any really bad things to say about this Texans team. Which usually, I mean, if you've been listening, every single episode, there's something about each team that gives me the ick, basically. But this Texans team, I don't know. There's really nothing. Like, they should be a playoff team contending AFC Championship like type team this year. Like, really, if I don't know why they'd step back other than it just Stroud has to be that guy.
Yeah, so I agree with you in the first portion of everything. They have everything they need. The roster's incredible.
Yeah.
The coaching is incredible. The only thing that holds me back from thinking that they will, achieve what they're hoping for, I think they will take a step back. The only reason I'm saying that is because, to me, everything, like I said, that could have gone right last year,
that's fair,
went well. So It's like, at some point, you have to see a bit of a regression, whether it be CJ Stroud. I don't think he's going to take a huge step back, maybe a slight one, whether it be, Nico Collins or Will Anderson or the coaching staff, maybe second year slump for them. Something's going to have, there's going to have to be a speed bump. There is not going to be smooth sailing. And, Stephon Diggs, he's going to have to transition to a number 2. Maybe he doesn't want to do that, so who knows? It's going to be interesting.
I got a hot take that he might be their wide receiver 3 at this point, but I'll get into that next week. But yeah, players I'm excited to watch. Derek Stingley is the obvious one for me. I think he really kind of broke out last year, and I think he's only going to get better in, what is it now, year 4 for him? He was 2021?
2021, yes.
Yeah, so year 4. I mean, fuck, he had that pick against Daniel Jones last week.
He's 22, actually.
Yeah.
22 into 2020. Because 2021 was, it was J.C. Horn and...
right, and then the next year was Sauce.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so going into year 3. But yeah, I think Stingley, I mean, he had that all-pro potential when he got drafted, and I think that this could be a year where he actually hits that all-pro level, top 5, top 3 corner in the league, gets into that group with Sauce and Surtain. And then the other guy is someone who DeMeco Ryans used to work with in San Francisco. It is Azeez Al-Shire. He was their 3rd linebacker when it was Warner and Greenlaw, and then it was him. I really like him. He had a very good season with the Titans last year, only signed a 1-year deal, and now he's back with DeMeco. And I think he knows exactly what DeMeco wants. I think he's an upgrade over Cashman last year, who Cashman had a very good season for them, but I think Azeez Al-Shire is going to make his name known as a linebacker around this league for this year.
Yeah, he's always been a really good linebacker, but again, he was getting overshadowed by the other 2 guys that you mentioned, Drake Greenlaw and Fred Warner. But especially in the same type of system, I think he's gonna be a big name to watch this year as far as linebackers are concerned. For myself, I would have to go with Tank Dell. He kind of caught everyone by surprise last year. He was one of the older type of rookies that was really, really small. Tiny. I think he's like 160 pounds.
Yeah.
But he was playing with so much heart. Like, he would be making these contested catches and everything.
He was making guys miss. Yeah.
Yeah, and like he was doing everything that you want out of a young wide receiver, especially one that they got. I think it was on day 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He is coming back from a broken leg, and he is on was it ankle or leg?
I think he broke his leg on like it was like a QB sneak.
Yeah.
They randomly had him in there to block, and he broke his leg.
Yeah.
Also coming back from a gunshot injury this offseason.
That's right. I completely forgot about that. He's banged up.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a gunshot, broken leg. So hopefully he's able to. But he did make a really good play. I think it was week 1 of the preseason.
Yeah.
So I think he should be back just fine. One of the more entertaining wide receivers to watch. They don't always have to be, the Julio Jones type of wide receivers. Sometimes the little guys could be just as effective.
Exactly. No, just an exciting, dynamic player, and he was C.J. Stroud's guy in that 2023 draft. I guess they worked together in the pre-draft process, and Stroud told, who's the Texans GM? Either way, I think it's one of the old Pats guys.
Is this still Caserio?
I think it's Caserio, yeah. So, yeah, Stroud told Caserio, go get Tank Dell. He did, and they're obviously happy about that. Over-under for the Texans this year set at 9.5. I'm going over. Like, this was a 10-win team last year. Again, the roster got better. They're due for some regression just because they are, but this is still a very good team. This is a double-digit win team, over 9.5.
Yeah, as much of regression that I want to say, I still don't think it's going to be, less than 9.5.
Yeah,
because that's a pretty low number. I want to say they're going to win 10 games, and to me that'll be a disappointment because of the expectation that a lot of people have, especially with second-year QBs. We see all the time people expect them to make that MVP jump, Super Bowl jump.
Yeah.
So, I think they're going to be 10-7, potential playoff team, and slightly over on that 9.5.
Okay. And then to finish it off here, division winner. I'm going with the Texans because I just think the Texans kind of already have that core built, and we know what to expect for the most part, where with the Colts, I think they have an equally high ceiling, but we need to see it from a lot of those players and over a course of a full season, so I'm picking the Texans as my division winner.
All right, well, I am picking the Colts.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons that I mentioned with the Texans and the Colts, but I think it'll be 1-2 all year. But yeah, ultimately it'll be the Colts who slightly edge them out.
Okay, we'll move over to the NFC here. Okay, so let's keep going now. Carolina Panthers here. 2023 recap. You guys stunk.
Yeah.
The offensive line was bad. The wide receivers were bad. The running backs were bad. The offensive line was bad. I think I said that twice now. The defense was okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was awful. And I think that when I talked with you this time last year about the Panthers, is we were cautiously optimistic. I think we both liked the coaching staff going into last year, which was just such a disappointment. But yeah, this was bad year. Bad year.
Yeah, from what everything that I've read so far in the offseason, they're kind of letting things out from last year and kind of let us check through the curtains. And apparently they had to change the offense 3 different times during the offseason. There was reports that Frank Reich did not want Bryce Young, and he wanted C.J. Stroud. And by the way that he ran his offense, kind of looked like he did. There was nothing that he wasn't supporting Bryce Young with the type of plays that would probably be better suited for him.
Not at all.
He kind of built an offense around a 6'5", statue quarterback behind the pocket, which maybe I should have known because that's basically who all of his quarterbacks were in the past. But yeah, that was a disaster of a season from top to bottom.
Yep.
And they fired their coach after 11 weeks, which is insane, especially in the first year for head coach. But yeah, everything we talked about how the Texans, everything went well. Panthers were the exact opposite. So it was not a great year.
Ain't that the truth? Notable additions though for the Panthers this offseason. They had a big offseason. Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Wanham, Deontay Johnson, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, Josie Jewell, A'Shawn Robinson, Jordan Fuller, and Dane Jackson. Let me know if I missed anybody. Notable losses: Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu, Yador Gross-Matos, Jeremy Chin, and Shaq Griffin. Can only go up.
Yeah.
That's really it. And I do like this team this year. I think that Adam Thielen, who was your wide receiver 1 last year at the ripe old age of 45, he's now the wide receiver 3, which is exactly what he should be in this offense. You trade for Deontay Johnson, very good separator, someone who will actually get open for Bryce. Then you draft Xavier Leggett in the second, who one of my draft crushes. I absolutely Love him. I mean, we talk about guys who are 6'4", runs a 4.3, but he's also 230-something pounds.
Yeah.
That guy's a tank. Jonathan Brooks in the second round. Very good running back. Jatavian Sanders in the third. This is what they should have done for Bryce last year. Build an offense. Make sure that he's good and supported. At least they're doing it in year 2.
Yeah.
At least we will know whether or not Bryce Young is the guy. And I'm still on the side that he is the guy. I do think he will be a good quarterback, very good quarterback in this league. He just got nothing last year. And at least they're setting him up for success this season. And also bringing in Dave Canales, who QB whisperer, basically.
Yeah, so again, I agree with everything you just said there. There are at points last season where I'm watching the games, and Bryce Young, he kind of just regressed as the season went along, because one of the things about him was that he was always so cool and calm under pressure, but then, which he was at the early parts of the season, but then towards the end of the season, he's just watching the rush. He's not even, nobody's getting open, and he's just watching the rush. He's getting crushed. I think he got sacked maybe 60 times, something along those lines last year. It was horrible. I really like the additions of Xavier Legette. He's going to be a speedster, a guy with... Because Panthers last year, not only were they really bad on offense, but they were one of the worst teams run after catch last year.
Yeah.
When
no one
Thielen,
could do anything.
When Thielen is your number one wide receiver and he runs maybe a 5.3 at this point of his career, they were one of the worst. So you get Deontay Johnson, who's your separator.
Yeah.
Legette, who can be your... He can go downfield. He can move with the ball in his hands. You still have Thielen, of course. Jadavian Sanders, really good with the ball in his hands. The Jonathan Brooks, that I like the duo of Brooks and Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
That should be really interesting. But like you said, the offense is... We'll find out what type of quarterback Bryce Young is. We'll find out what type of player he is this season. I am counting on a bounce back. I think that's what he's going to do. Dave Canales has been, like you said, a quarterback whisperer. With Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Two of those guys I just mentioned are also on the smaller side. So, another thing that Bryce Young's got going there. So, they can't get any worse than last year. That's for sure.
That's the thing, again. Can't get any worse. And on the defensive side of the ball, too, you lose Brian Burns, who probably should have let him walk a couple seasons ago, but old regime, old front office. But replacing Brian Burns with Clowney and Wanham, that's I don't know. That's not a net loss. That's good.
Yeah.
It's obviously they're not Brian Burns, but you now have two productive edge rushers at this point, and your real star on that defensive line, Derek Brown, is still there, and he has just been emerging after a very slow start to his career. And I know that you didn't like him to start his career, but he's been... I think I can say top 5 defensive tackle or interior defensive line player in the league. He's a stud. And
he's a monster.
Yeah, and I think that this defense has been built out nicely at this point. You hope that J.C. Horn can actually be healthy and live up to his number one corner status, but I like this defense better this year than last year, and it's the same DC. And Ejiro Evero, very highly touted DC. The fact that the new staff kept him shows that he is wanted, but I don't know. I like this team too much. They were a 2-10 team last year, and I'm if things really break the right way, I think they can contend for the division. It's a smelly division. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you mentioned about the defense, it was weird because we were getting crushed almost every game. But then you look back at the defensive numbers, and they were top 5 in yards allowed per game last year.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, how does that happen? They were still worst in the league in sacks. And surprisingly, you're like, okay, maybe teams just ran the ball and were really successful running the ball against them. Well, they were, I think, 15th or 16th, middle of the pack in the league, yards per carry.
Yeah.
So they had a really solid defense with all the problems that they had on offense. Of course, which
is tough to do.
Yeah, which is really tough. You lose some key guys like Brian Burns. You lose Frankie Lou, who's going to be huge to replace him. But Shaq Thompson, he's back. He missed basically the entire year. I'm just praying to God that J.C. Horn can stay healthy for just 1 year because he's so good when he is healthy. But yeah, the defense with they should get better, especially with the second year with the defense coordinator. Jiro Evero. So
let's talk about players that we are excited to watch. And for me, it's Xavier Leggett. Like I talked about, one of my favorite draft guys for this year. And I feel like I've talked a lot about him just in general over the offseason, so I probably don't need to say too much. But again, guy who, if he hits his ceiling and potential, could be one of the best receivers in the league. That's just how scary good athletically he is. But the other guy I'm excited for is the QB. It is Bryce Young. I think that he was unfairly labeled a bust last year, and again, I went through the same thing with Tua, and people still have their judgments out on Tua, but Tua's now leading the league in passing. Bryce Young has that level of talent in him, and now with actual NFL players around him, should be able to shine. So I'm excited to see what Bryce Young can do in his sophomore year.
Yeah, same here. I'm going to name 2 or 3 different guys. Bryce Young for the same reasons. I think Bryce Young got unfairly labeled a bust last year. Of course, we know he didn't play well. I have a hard time believing that there would have been that many players who would have played well under the same circumstances. But I'm not going to go full Justin Herbert fan mode there. What I will say, I think the reason that it looked a lot worse than what it did was because of the success of C.J. Stroud. But going right after him.
And also, I mean, not to rub salt in the wound, but trading up for Bryce Young and now having that number 1 overall pick be Caleb Williams the next year. Also a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. But, it'll only get worse. It'll only get worse if Caleb Williams is really good and Bryce Young plays like crap again this year. But So the second player that I was gonna say is J.T. Sanders or Jatavian Sanders, because we have not had a true, really good pass-catching tight end since Greg Olsen, who I miss dearly because he was one of my favorite players ever. You need that outlet for a young quarterback. Quarterbacks will tell you all the time, like, their safety blankets, they're always their tight ends. Super reliable. He's a real athletic guy, good hands, could high point the ball. So we've tried to draft guys like Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble, but they haven't exactly done it. So kind of hoping that third time the charm right here.
There you go. And finally, over/under for the Panthers set at 5.5 wins. Over.
I'm going over.
That's.
That's. I think that's the Vegas telling people like, hey, this is because you would expect it to be lower, really. Like if you're talking about a team who won 2 games that didn't really marginal. So the fact that it's is that high. Kind of funny. So I think it's going to be a bounce back year because people forget they won I think 8 games the year before or 7 games. They weren't like horrible.
They were just
They were just like middle of the pack.
Yeah,
so I think they can get back to being 7-8 win team. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
No, and also we didn't really talk about it, but that interior of the offensive line too is just also so much better. And if the tackles stay healthy. That offensive line could be a very good unit. So it's
which they were in 2022.
Exactly.
With the same players.
Exactly. Moving on now over to the Falcons. Falcons finished 7-10 last year for 3rd in the division. 2023 recap. Arthur Smith is a terrorist. They didn't have top 40 quarterback play.
No.
That's terrible.
Recap sounds like it did the year before that as well. where they have they did add Bijan the last year, but the running game was never the issue.
No.
So they've always been having good wide receivers, good tight ends, good running backs, and then just don't do anything. Like I don't like you said. I'm surprised that Arthur Smith got another job. I guess that happens when your family's a billionaire, so he gets second and third opportunities. But that was it was tough to watch. Desmond Ridder, is a tight end, I think.
He's so bad.
Yeah, he's
like the fact that they managed to trade him in the offseason and get something back is wild. But notable additions for the Falcons this year: Kirk Cousins, Justin Simmons, Matt Judon, Darnell Mooney, and I put Rondale Moore, who's now since out for the season. Notable losses: Calais Campbell, Jonnu Smith, Cordell Patterson, Bud Dupree, and Jeff Okudah. The Falcons are going for it. After whole regime, new coaching staff in comes Raheem Morris, the Rams defensive coordinator, and he brings Zach Robinson to be his offensive coordinator. They're trying to win basically immediately. And I was a little worried about the direction of where this team was going, especially after drafting Michael Penix, who is going to sit for 2-3 years behind Kirk. It didn't make sense, especially when they could have got like the number one defensive player off the board or added another wide receiver for the offense. But now they had Justin Simmons. Now they had Matt Judon, both vets, old guys, but proven high-quality starters in the league and very recently. I like their direction again. This was a team I was lower on just because I'm like, I don't know. You add in Kirk, yeah, it's obviously a way better offense, but that defense looked bad because it was Jesse Bates, it was AJ Terrell, and then after that, it was like, what the hell's going on? I like the Falcons for this year. I still have questions about how the overall roster construction worked, but for this season, the Falcons should be, I don't know if I should say very good, but they'll be better than good, maybe less than very good, but they'll be good. Yeah.
I too. I think they're going to be great. But listen, the issue that I think a lot of people are having with the Falcons is that they're assuming that because they got Kirk Cousins, who, mind you, is 36 years old, coming off of a catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
Whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you just forget his injury right now and you go back to Kirk Cousins historically, whether you want to go to Washington, you want to go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
He's had very good teams on Minnesota. I'm not going to say so much Washington, but he's had very good teams in the past. Were any of those teams Super Bowl contenders? No. Were they any close? No.
Yeah.
I think he has really good weapons, but again, he's had really good weapons before. You know, we're talking about someone who's had Stephon Diggs in the past, who's had Justin Jefferson, who's had Adam Thielen, T.J. Hawkinson. The list goes on and on. They had always really good running backs, and good offense coordinators too. So it's like, yes, he's a good quarterback. But the thing is, he's always been in good situations. Though, so I don't know how much better he's going to be.
Yeah, it's like this is a team that I'm confident in. Will probably win the division, will make the playoffs, but it's like after that, Kirk Cousins is your QB, and when you have to go up against, there's not really many juggernaut QBs in the NFC right now, but like teams like the Niners and the Lions and like proven good, weird to say that the Lions are a proven good team at this point, but yeah, Kirk Cousins under the bright lights, you don't trust him. And
I do not.
He's shown that for a decade plus now for his career. So, and it brings up more issues with this offense in general. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is actually healthy to start off with. Hasn't played any snaps yet. The Falcons are also being weird with Michael Penix not really playing in preseason anymore, even though he's not going to play any meaningful snaps for the next 2-3 years anyways. So that kind of leans to me that I don't know if Kirk is going to be actually ready for week one. Coming off an Achilles is fucked. Yeah. So, especially doing it as late in the season as I guess it was midway through the season compared to Rodgers, but it's still a couple months more of a recovery. They don't have a wide receiver too.
No.
It's Darnell Mooney, who is fine, I guess, and maybe
like a 3 or 4.
That's the thing, and maybe because now he has an actual quarterback that's not Justin Fields, like maybe it's better, but I don't know, I doubt it. They're hoping Kyle Pitts turns into the Kyle Pitts from his rookie year and the 1,000-yard guy, but like there's still questions basically everywhere. Hoping Matt Judon coming off his knee injury is your number one pass rusher. Yeah. Fine in theory, but like it's not great. So as good as this team is, I think if they played in any other division in the NFC South, they probably wouldn't be the favorites to win any division other than this one.
No, and I don't think this is the same situation as Tom Brady coming to the Bucs. It's not at all because they were already established. This is a new coaching staff. These are young players. Like, this is not a Mike Evans that's been there for 6-7 years. This is not a Chris Godwin that's been there for 6-7 years. This is not a team with a veteran Bruce Arian coach that's been there for a few years. This is not going to be that type of situation. I think it's going to take some time to gel and everyone get together. Like you said, those reps in the offseason are really important. Anytime quarterbacks are new to the team, usually they spend the offseason throwing with them. Even if it's not at the facility, they just kind of hang out. But Kirk wasn't able to do that. He was rehabbing. So this is I think it's going to take some time. I don't think they're going to start off very hot.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't think this is a very tough division to win. So shouldn't be too bad towards the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll keep going here. Exciting player to watch out for. It has to be one of these offensive guys to me because none of the defensive guys are really like.
It has to be Bijan, I think, right?
It's Bijan's the guy who he had a great rookie year. It just could have been so much better. Yeah. I don't know why Tyler Algier and Cordero Patterson were getting more red zone touches than Bijan. I'm trying to remember. I read something, I think, last week that there was another running back in that mix. It might have actually... No, it wasn't Cordero Patterson, but someone else had more red zone snaps or 5 yards to goal line snaps than Bijan and Tyler Algier combined. And I don't know who that guy is. And the fact I don't know who that guy is just shows how bad the coaching was and what they were doing. But, yeah, Bijan should just, feed him the ball. He will be a weapon. And I got to shout out Kyle Pitts for maybe if he has an actual quarterback, he will get used. And same thing with Drake London. Drake London also hasn't had a guy. He still had very productive years. It's kind of like a Garrett Wilson there for the Jets where give him a quarterback, he should be like a 1,200-yard receiver. So all of those skill guys for the Falcons should all have breakout years. Yeah.
It's hard to say, like you mentioned, hard to say anybody else other than those three guys, Pitts, London, and Bijan. Bijan, luckily for him, at least we think so. Yeah. So far this season, is not going to have to split carries and red zone opportunities. And I'm not even coming from a fantasy perspective. This is just like I feel like Arthur Smith, almost to kind of like prove a point to like fantasy people.
Yeah,
was just like doing everything but giving talented players the ball in their hands in the red zone. It's
being
crazy.
So spiteful, it was crazy.
No, it was insane.
And then finish it off here. Over under for their season set at 9.5 wins.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But again, just because they actually have QB play this year, I got to go over. And again, the division, while it's getting better, it's still a fairly weak division. I think 10 wins for them is definitely in the books, maybe 11 if all of those old players and all the guys break out like they're supposed to. But I'm going over for the Falcons this year.
I'll go under. I think they'll get 9 wins and no more. For as bad as the division is, I think everyone is kind of similarly in that same type of spot of 7, 8, 9 wins. I think they'll beat up on each other. I don't think any one team is going to, stomp any other team in the division out. I think every team is going to be around 3-3 within the division, 4-2 within the division, 2-4, somewhere along that range. So I think I'd have to say they'll go 9-8, probably.
Yeah. Which I think, very, very doable. I think that, again, that 9.5, Vegas is good for a reason. Next team up here, the New Orleans Saints, 9-8. And the recap for 2023, just see 2021, see 2022, rinse, repeat, here we go again. That's really it. I don't know.
The Saints have probably been the most depressing franchise over the last couple years, and you can tell me as a Panthers fan, well, what are you talking about? Well, at least we had a bit of hope last year when we drafted Bryce Young, and we still have some hope that maybe we'll have a bounce back.
Yeah.
They just know that every year they're going to win 8-9 games, miss out on the playoffs, redo it the year after, maybe get another veteran quarterback that's not going to really do anything for them in the grand scheme of things, and we will get Taysom Hill carries every year. You want a Taysom Hill throw, catch, carry, everything. You'll get every year.
Yeah. No, it was, they're just, a few years from now, they can bottom out and then finally restart, but they've just been bad. Notable additions for them this offseason. Shocked they were able to make any. Chase Young, Willie Gay Jr., and Nathan Shepard. Notable losses, Jameis Winston, Andres Pete, Marcus May, and Ryan Ramczyk is just done.
Yeah.
Which is very sad. Sucks for him, one of the better tackles in the league, but yeah, his career is over, it seems, unfortunately. I don't know. The Saints for this year, it's just... I talked about it. It's you got to wait a couple more years for all that dead cap and all these massive contracts to these aging players that you've given. You just got to wait for all of those guys to not be under contract anymore. And until then, you will have a 7 to 9 win season. You're not bad enough to bottom out, but you're certainly not good enough to make the playoffs or even push to contend in the playoffs. They're just a sad team. I don't like being a Saints fan. You said it, is awful right now. And speaking from a little experience, not in the same way the Saints did it, but when the Dolphins, when they had Ryan Tannehill at QB and we were just consistently 6 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, not close to making the playoffs, but you can't get a top 10 pick and get kind of those blue chip players for your team to build out. It sucks because you can't get really any better. You have to bottom out at some point, and I don't think the Saints are bad enough to bottom out, but man, I think this is a way worse team than last year.
Yeah, no, this is the Saints kind of, they don't build division winning teams. They build like the second place every year. So whether you like the team or not, they will finish second place every year.
They're like the Bulls of the NBA. Really? They just want to get close enough to be like, we won some games. We're pretty good. But yeah, again, it amounts to nothing at the end of the year.
Yeah, and then they got to watch Derek Carr for another year, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
No,
but unfortunately, that's where we're at right now, and that's where they are at. I shouldn't say unfortunately though, because I'm glad. Give us a win or two. I like it.
Yeah. They added, and that's the thing, so they lose Ramczyk, which is absolutely huge, and they hope that they could have had him back, because now that puts Tali Fuaga, who they drafted in the first, who I really liked as a prospect. They move him over to left tackle. Never played left tackle in his life, but it's going to work out. And then they have Trevor Penning, who they picked in 2022. He's just been terrible his entire awful. Career. Again, it shouldn't have even been a first-round pick. But he's starting for them. Yeah. That is bad. Eric McCoy is a fine center. Cesar Ruiz is like a okay guard. They got some guy named Lucas Patrick playing their left guard. Like, that offensive line is going to stink. And the one saving grace for it is maybe Tali Fuaga is stud left tackle, like great. But it's tough asking a guy who's played on the right side his whole life to suddenly come to that left side and be the best player on your offensive line immediately.
Yeah.
It's not looking good. It's for the Saints whatsoever, because at least the offensive line was like okay last year with Ramczyk, and they had Pete. It was not good, but again, okay. This has a chance to be the worst offensive line in the league. Like, really.
No, it's not looking good. No. I don't. There's nothing else to really say.
No.
Like you said, Penning has been awful. You're relying on a rookie to be your best offensive lineman at a position that he's never played at before.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, it's not looking good.
No. And there's just other things like Chris Olave is really the only real weapon they have at this point. Alvin Kamara still effective, but just old. They got Rashid Shaheed, who everyone loves, but like he's probably like a very good 3. I wouldn't put him as like a wide receiver 2. Yeah, I don't, nothing to like on the offense. The defense is just old as hell. Jordan Cameron, been around forever. They bring in Chase Young to like maybe do something, but like Chase Young at this point is not coming back. Demario Davis is awesome still, but he's also old as fuck. Marshawn Lattimore is not getting any younger. Tyrann Mathieu still good, but he's also old. Yeah. Like, it's a retirement home back there.
They got a lot of aging vets that are making a lot of money that aren't, doing too much of production. Okay. Like you said, Demario Davis, awesome player. Wish he wouldn't have to spend these last couple of years of his career kind of rotting away on a team that has zero aspirations.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lattimore, solid. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. I also, don't want to take too much time up here on the Saints, but Dennis Allen is also just an idiot who should not be coaching. But they just want him to be coach because they know they can't do anything else. Exciting player to look. I literally don't have anyone to talk about. Like baby Chris Olave, but like he's already good. Like no one else is exciting to talk about on the Saints. They don't even have any good young and up and coming players.
Saints like, really. And exciting haven't not been going hand in hand together over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Kamara used to be fun to watch. Not anymore.
No, it's
maybe Taysom Hill. I don't know.
That's honestly that should be the answer. It's Taysom Hill because he's just exciting to watch. And finally, over/under for the team set at 7.5 wins. I'm going under. I just think they got 9 wins last year. I think that's a worse team. I don't like the coaching. I don't know. I feel like I can't shit on the Saints for like 10 minutes there and be like, no, over on the season. So I think this is a 7-win team, 6-win team.
I have them 7. I don't think they're going to be, like a 4 or 5-win team. If they are, good for them, actually, because they need to start getting in towards that direction. Maybe go for an Arch Manning in a couple of years. But this is, for the same reasons you said. We've been shitting on them for the last 10 minutes. So definitely under.
Okay, final team up here. NFC South, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 9-8 last year, division winner. Did they win a playoff game?
They did, yes. They beat the Eagles.
Right, yeah, crazy. And Baker still got that juice. That was, last year I expected this team to be top 3, top 5 pick type team. Baker still played really well. The offense looked good. The defense was pretty good. They, again, 9 wins to win the division. Not impressive, but they got there and they were a fun team later on in the season.
Yeah, they started off strong. I want to say they were like 3-0 or something, maybe 3-1. Then they had this huge lull in the middle of the season where they're playing like crap, and then they finished strong. Yeah. And then towards the end of the season, we're like, wait, are they actually going to win the division? And they did. Yeah. And then won a playoff game.
Yeah.
So that was kind of came out of nowhere, especially because as a Panthers fan, Baker Mayfield was with us in 2022. Famously got cut in the middle of the season. He was no good. So he kind of went to the Bucks right after Tom Brady left, when everyone was like, okay, well, this team was no good with Tom Brady.
Yeah,
so.
Won't be good with it,
Exactly. So he won a playoff game the year after Tom Brady wasn't able to win a playoff game. So who's the real GOAT at the end of the day?
There we go. Notable additions, notable losses, didn't really do a ton. Added Jordan Whitehead, bringing him back. And they lost Carlton Davis, Shaq Barrett, and Devin White. Basically, the Bucks are running it back, and let's just see it work again. Because going over it, it's basically the exact same team, exact same roster. They obviously lose Dave Canales, which is a big loss. Let's see them do it again. Because I still have my doubts, which I had my doubts last year. I had a lot of doubts last year, but I don't know. They could probably do it again.
Yeah.
Realistically.
I know that there's not really... I'm kind of going to attack this without any analysis, just off purely vibes and what we've seen from Baker Mayfield every other year. So, if you guys are familiar with the Baker Mayfield, circle, where he plays well, and then he starts talking crap, and then after that he starts playing poorly, and then people are talking crap about him, and then it's just this cycle that goes round and round. I think he's and again, there's no analysis. It just seems to happen to him every other year. Plays like crap, And like you said, they lost their. Not only did they lose their offense coordinator, they also lost their wide receivers coach too, who a lot of the wide receivers from Tampa were saying, he was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Evans was able to get that 10th consecutive 1,000-yard season under those two guys.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm thinking they're running it back. I just don't think that they were good enough last year. I think they kind of just everything clicked at the right time. Like I think they had like a 4 or 5 week stretch.
I think that like they lucked into winning the division and then playing the Eagles, where it's like who just fell apart at the end of the year, where things just kind of went their way. I don't think this is like a division winning team when you really look at it, though. And yeah, like you look at, they got some young players that you like on defense. Rashad White was a fantasy star last year, even though all of his stats and his numbers kind of stunk.
Yeah.
And they bring in some younger guys in the draft. They drafted Jalen McMillan out of Washington. They drafted Bucky Irving out of Oregon. They drafted Graham Barden out of Duke to be their starting center, and he's looked great in preseason so far. So it's like maybe if they can just add more depth on the offensive line gets stronger. Obviously, they have Tristan Wirfs, who they paid a boatload of money this offseason. Like maybe things take another jump on the offense, but I don't know. I don't expect it to, and it's tough. It's tough to look at the Bucs team and be like, you guys can win the division again.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of things had to go right for them last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're in a division with Bryce Young the way that he played last year, Desmond Ridder and Derek Carr,
Yeah.
someone has to win the division, and I think they were just that someone that happened to win the division.
Exactly. Exciting player to watch. I'll start it off here. It is second-year player Yaya Diaby. He I think he was like a day 2 rookie last year, but now without Shaq Barrett on the team, he's since retired, but Yaya had 7.5 sacks for the team last year, and this is a team that is looking for someone to ascend to be that number 1 pass rusher, and very good rookie year in kind of like a rotational role, and we'll see now that he is the bona fide one of the starters there. I think it's him and Joe Tryon, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm excited to see if he can get up into the double-digit marks for sacks this year.
As for myself, I'm having a hard time kind of thinking about an interesting player because I don't particularly think that this is going to be a very interesting team.
No.
But I mean, if I had to, I would probably who's the running back? Is Bucky Irving, right?
Bucky Irving, yeah.
I think, like you said, Rashad White wasn't really good, but somehow ended up really good in fantasy.
He just had so many touches.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Yeah, they just kept feeding him the ball, averaging 3.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, I think I just because they don't really have that many great young players either. So yeah, I think Bucky Irving could. They definitely need someone with juice behind in the backfield to do something.
Definitely. And finally, finish it off here. Over under 7.5 wins. I'm on the under. I think, again, this feels like a 7-win team, and a lot of things broke for them to finish off that season to get them to 9 wins, and I do think this is more around a 7-win team, so I'll go under. I can definitely see 8, but that's why Vegas is so good at setting lines, because it's an 8-7 win team, in my opinion.
Yeah, so last year I predicted them to essentially have the same season that the Panthers had, and it did not happen.
Yeah.
So this time I will do it again. So
yeah.
We don't learn from our mistakes in this program. We
Never.
do not.
Never.
No. So there'll be a 3-4 win team.
Ooh.
And
it's bold.
I don't know. I'm not that high on them. I still don't think.
There's nothing to be high on them about.
It's
even their coaching is just I think Todd Bowles is okay.
Todd Bowles he's
a dude.
If it weren't for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, including the playoffs, not only would Baker be gone, but Todd Bowles would 100% be gone too.
Yeah, yeah.
Those were the two that like their jobs were depending on a strong finish.
Yeah.
And it happened. Congrats. Bought them another year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. And yeah, finally we'll pick the division winner. Unless you pick your Panthers, I think we're both going Falcons here.
I'm going Falcons.
Yeah. It's just, again, the Panthers, like, I think the Panthers could probably be the second best team in this division, but they don't have that, like, true star power. We don't know who the great players on the Panthers are yet.
Yeah.
Where the Falcons, we can look and be like, yeah, those guys are studs. Mm-hmm. And then the Bucks and the Saints just don't have anyone.
Yeah.
They're just there. So, yeah, that'll do it. You got to go golfing soon.
I do.
So
yeah.
We'll wrap this up here.
Let's go golfing.
I will ask, what is your Super Bowl pick for this year to close it out?
So, because the Chiefs have the chance to win 3 in a row, we've never seen a three-peat in the NFL before. It's hard time thinking that it'll ever happen.
Yeah.
The Niners, you can't just keep picking them every year to make it a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
See, the hater in me that hates every single team in the NFC is having a hard time picking a team. I don't know why, but like for some reason, I just keep thinking that this is gonna be the Cowboys' year, which is the most insane thing to say. But like, I don't think the conference has ever been weaker than what it is right now, and they're always lurking. They're always there. If they get their shit together, they could go on a run, but that just never happens.
Yeah.
So I don't even believe this prediction that I'm giving, right? So,
man, if the Cowboys were to make a Super Bowl and Jerry didn't pay Dak, like, he could ask for so much money in the offseason. That'd be so funny. Yeah, so it'd be the most Cowboys thing ever.
I think it'll be the Ravens and the Cowboys, two teams that we've kind of expected to do some things over the last couple of years that have not. But I think something's gonna happen.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Chiefs again. Like that's just I can't have them winning again for a third time.
Went to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. That's crazy.
It's crazy. All right, we will end it here then. If you would like this, please like, share, retweet, subscribe, tell our friends, and until next time, peace.